Hello, I'm Darth Vangoff, and recently I did a YouTube video where I talked about my initial reactions to the Rise of Skywalker Star Wars movie. Since then, I was speaking to a friend of mine at work about the movie, and he had questions about it. And I thought, oh, well, these are questions that someone who might be interested in the movie would want to know. So I'm here to give you a rundown of his questions and some other questions I thought you might want to know before you watch the movie to maybe help you determine whether you want to see the movie or not. Now, there will be spoilers in this video, but rest assured, I will save them for the end. So the order of which I have gone through these questions is the questions with the least spoilery answers are first, and the answers with the more spoilery, the questions with the more spoilery answers are last. And keep in mind, this is what I consider least to most spoilery. And of course, some questions really have spoilery answers, but if I put them in the beginning, it's because I'm going to answer them in a way that's not spoilery. Like, not all questions I'm going to go into equal detail on to answer, but I'm going to answer them to the degree of which I think, just for like someone who's curious to watch the movie, who wants to know just simply, are these questions answered? But the ones towards the end are probably ones I'm going to go on a rant about because I just think I have a lot to say about them. I do also want to let you know that I have not seen any reviews on YouTube or heard anyone else's opinion about the movie because I don't know anyone else who saw the movie. So this is simply my own ideas of what you might want to know before watching the movie. So other YouTubers might mention things that I have not even thought about. Just to let you know. First question: does The Rise of Skywalker undo The Last Jedi? In my opinion, no. But I don't want to get too much into that here. So perhaps you'll figure out to what degree as I answer more questions. Now, this next question is, are the leaks real? And I don't want to get too much into that. I don't want to answer it directly. I will answer it indirectly. So in the beginning, so I don't know how much of the leaks you've heard. All I'm going to say is, in the beginning, during the opening crawl, the first sentence of the opening crawl presents a plot point that's the equivalent of being hit in the head with a baseball bat. And you make that what you will. That is, the first sentence of the opening crawl is a lore point that's just like, whoa. They present this in the first sentence of the opening crawl. So, you know, if you haven't heard the leaks, you won't know what I'm talking about, so nothing's spoiled. If you have heard about the leaks, then hopefully that confirms enough. I mean, I don't want to get too much into it. So next question. Do they explain Snoke? Yes, and it is laughable. It's laughable. So, first off, the explanation is poor. Second off, the explanation is just in passing. Like, just someone, it's a throwaway line, someone just goes, oh yeah, Snoke, blah blah. And they just, like, you know, casually explain Snoke away. And you could miss it, except you're probably going to facepalm so hard when you hear it. That's probably why you won't miss it. Oh. Okay, so the next question is Rey's lineage explained? So I'm going to say yes. So it does not in a way that contradicts The Last Jedi. So her parents are still nobodies, but she's related to someone. There's someone in her extended family that's a character that we've been introduced to before in at least one of the previous movies. And this is not shoehorned in. I think they do a good, like, they didn't just make her related to someone for the sake of it. They actually tied into the plot of this movie. So I think the explanation they gave for Rey is the best they could have given based on how the plot of this movie played out. Of course, they simply could have made a different movie so that they didn't need to have her heritage explained in this way. But, you know, given what the plot of this movie was, this was the best explanation they could have given for Rey. Does this movie attempt to be like any of the other earlier movies? As in, does it attempt to copy the other movies? And here's the funny answer is, I don't know. So there's something that happens in this movie that I can't tell if they were trying to recreate something from the original series or not. So you've seen A New Hope, and this is going to be a New Hope spoiler, but whatever, you should have seen A New Hope by now. But in A New Hope, they were... Okay, so imagine if you watched the scene of A New Hope where they're on the Death Star trying to rescue Princess Leia. Now, imagine if that was chopped in... Like, if they edited half that part out, and the part where they got trapped in the tractor beam, and the part where they went to light speed, if the time in between was cut in half, and it was rushed. So there's a scene in this film that's kind of like the rescue from A New Hope, except it's really rushed, and I can't tell if they were trying to copy A New Hope, or if they simply felt like this scene had to take place to move the plot along, and so they just included the scene just because they had a plot point, and they just try to get the scene over with as soon as possible. I really don't know. Okay, so do they do Princess Leia justice in this film? And I think so. So basically, Carrie Fisher died after shooting The Last Jedi, but before filming the Rise of Skywalker. So, they used what they did is they used old footage from The Last Jedi that they hadn't used, and they used unused footage that had Princess Leia in it, and it's pretty well incorporated into here. So, I didn't notice any CGI or anything. I think it's all old clips of Carrie Fisher playing Princess Leia. There's one thing is that there's a scene where Princess Leia does something in the dark, and I can't tell if this was actually Carrie Fisher shooting the scene in the dark, or if they had another actress play Princess Leia and they put a shot in the dark just so you couldn't tell it was a different actress. But as far as I know, it's all Princess Leia. So, this is maybe sort of spoilery, but I don't think so. Do they bring back Mace Windu like the leaks suggest? The answer to that is no. Before I saw this movie, when I heard that leak, I did not want Mace Windu to come back. But there's a certain point of this movie in which I thought, I do want Mace Windu to come back at this particular part. There's like a perfect part in the movie where they could have brought back Mace Windu, but they didn't, so okay. I mean, no big deal, but I thought there was a part where it would have been cool to bring him back. So it's going to get a little bit more spoilery from here, so just be warned. Now, in the first movie... Oh god, okay, I'm looking at my notes here that I written down. I'm at this point now. Okay, I'm just going to... So in the first movie... It seemed like Finn and Rey might develop a relationship, but it wasn't certain. They sort of teased it, maybe not. I don't know. It could have been they were just really good friends. Could have been they ended up in a relationship. Then in the second movie, The Last Jedi, it seemed like Finn was more developing a relationship towards Rose Tico, maybe, and Kylo and Rey might develop a relationship, uncertain. So, this is not a love triangle, but a love Z. So, Z for Zorro. Or, hold on, the camera's inverted. Hold on, Z for Zorro. Okay, you get what I mean. So, this is a love Z. And it could easily be solved by just having Kylo and Rey together and then Finn and Rose together. So, does this get resolved? Or does this love Z get resolved? And I'm going to keep this spoiler free, so I'm going to tell you what I think you need to know going into this movie, just enough to kind of settle your curiosity down. This might also perk your interest more, I don't know. But partway through the movie, they tease that Finn still has feelings for Rey. They tease it. They don't outright say it, so you have to see the movie. But they tease that Finn might have some feelings for Rey. They do not go anywhere with it. So there's that. And then one more thing I will say about this is, okay, imagine if you were with someone, you know someone, and then they suddenly kissed you and showed that they liked you. Or imagine if you were the person who got kissed by someone you knew for a long time and you just realized that they now like you. How would those, if you were one or the other of those characters, how would you have act towards the other person? So if you remember, Finn and Rey Oh, no. Finn and Rose kissed in the last movie, just kind of out of the blue. So how do you think they're acting towards each other after that? So how would you act towards someone after you kissed them in a sudden burst of emotion, or they kissed you? The answer is not how they act towards each other in this movie. Like, there is no indication in this movie that they had that kiss in the previous movie. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe there's a part where they have to split up in the end, like Faye. Why do I keep saying Faye? So Finn and one other character go off towards one part. This is when they're on. In case you want to know what part of the movie I'm talking about, when you see it, it's the part where they're on horseback or camelback or whatever those things are. Finn and one other character go one place. Rose and a group of other people go another place, and Rose seems like she's worried about Finn, but it's not clear if it's like a love interest thing or if they're just comrade in arms type of thing. I don't know. So, does the love triangle Z thing get resolved? I would say I'm not sure. Or haphazardly. How about that? It gets resolved haphazardly, maybe. Again, because I'm not telling you everything. I'm just trying to keep this as spoiler-free as possible. Just because if I say any more, it's going to get too spoilery. So, I just don't expect it to be resolved. That's all I'm saying. Do they go further with the Force connection between Kylo and Rey, or do they do anything with it? So again, more spoilers. Oh yeah. In fact, Rey and Kylo have a Force duel from several kilometers away by Force Skype. I know. Okay, so you're probably face-palming right now. And you know what? Whoever wrote that part in the script probably should be ashamed of themselves. But the way it was directed, though, so the way the director actually shot the shot and the way it was edited, I do approve of that. So kudos to the director. Although I think I think J.J. Abrams both directed and wrote the script, so I kind of take that kudos back a little bit. But yeah, so they do and it's not just that, they do a whole lot with that Force connection between Kylo and Rey, just so much with the Force connection. Anyways, are there any more plot holes? Or any plot holes? Yes, there's one that I can think of off the top of my head. Other YouTubers will probably think of more, but there's a time when a group of heroes have to get off a planet. Another character sacrifices her opportunity to leave the planet so that they may leave. This is a planet you cannot leave voluntarily or whenever you want. It's hard to leave this planet. So another character sacrifices her opportunity to get off the planet so the heroes may. And she hopes like one day, maybe years from now, she'll get another chance. So a few hours later, in the universe, in movie time it's like maybe not even an hour later, she shows up off the planet, joining the heroes up in an outer space adventure. So yeah, how did she get off the planet when she's been plotting for years to get off? I don't know. Do they make the characters from this new trilogy somebodies? They try. Particularly with Poe, they try. But they kind of fail. There's two reasons for this. One, I don't think they had to make him someone. I kind of like the idea. So there's a part in this where Poe has to take up a leadership position, and he feels like he's in over his head. I like that. I don't like heroes who just like, oh, we're the good guys, we'll win because it's written in the script. I do like how Poe has uncertainty about his, him stepping up to the occasion to be the leader. He does have doubts about himself, and I like that. So I don't think they need to be. I think I like this. I like the ideas that these are nobodies who become somebodies, but deep down inside they still haven't lost who they are. But there's another reason why they're nobodies, and that's because, spoiler, Lando Calrissian is in the movie. Although Lando was in the trailer, so it's not really a spoiler, but Lando Calrissian is in the movie, and just whenever the other characters are in his presence, they pale in comparison to him. Yeah, this original trilogy character steals the show, even though this trilogy is supposed to be about the new characters. And you know why I think that is? Here's why I think that is. Billy D. Williams seems like he's having fun. I think Billy D. Williams, the actor who plays Lando, saw the last movie, saw that Mark Hamill was not having fun playing Luke Skywalker. So whatever contract he signed with Lucasfilm to do this movie, he probably wrote in the film, hey, I'm going to do this movie only on the condition that I have fun. And it shows. He's having fun. The other actors look like they're being directed at the behest of J.J. Abrams. Billy D. Williams seems like he's Lando. So, yeah, Lando steals the show. And, I do like the part where, when Poe is stepping up to that leadership position, he goes to Lando and said, "Hey, how did you guys do it? You faced insurmountable odds, and you prevailed. We have to do the same thing over again. How did you guys do it?" I like that. I like that scene. I don't know what my favorite part of the movie is. I don't know what my favorite part of this movie is, but it's a part with Lando in it. Just that, it's a part with Lando in it. That's all I'm going to say. Oh, my next plot point. Or not plot point, but okay, my next question. I have three more questions left. So, 4 more questions. 5, or no, 4, I don't know. But, okay, do they explain the Holdo maneuver? Oh, God. Oh, gosh. Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. Yes and no. So, yes, they explain the Holdo maneuver. Or they give an explanation for the Holdo maneuver. Does this explanation explain the Holdo maneuver? No. So what they say is, the Holdo maneuver is a 1 in a million chance of pulling off. So I'm confused. So I have 2 interpretations of this. One, that whenever you try to take a ship and ram a physical object at light speed, there's a 1 in a million chance that they'll actually connect. Otherwise, it'll just go through and go to hyperspace by the time it gets fast enough that it's actually at light speed. Like the time, it's just difficult. It's like spinning a roulette wheel with a million things and hoping it lands on the objects collide. And the other parts of the other 999,000 parts of the roulette wheel are objects do not collide, and it fails. I don't know how this worked. I don't know how an explanation like this would work. So remember Rogue One? Spoiler for Rogue One if you haven't seen it. A rebel ship's trying to get away at the end, and the Death Star appears right out of hyperspace, right as the ship's trying to go in hyperspace. So the ship's going in hyperspace, the Death Star's there, the ship trying to go into hyperspace collides with the Death Star and crashes. The ship collides with the Death Star, but it doesn't blow it up like the ship did in The Last Jedi. So I don't know. So if a ship only has a 1 in a million chance of colliding while going at an object to light speed, well, this ship connected, so that's 2 in a million, I guess. I mean, 2 times out of a million, that's pretty good, but then it just had a different result. So I don't know. The other explanation for this, of how, having a 1 in a million chance makes sense, is that this maneuver is just so hard to pull off. It takes an expert to pull it off. It's just so difficult. Only the best pilots can pull it off. In which case, how did Holdo pull it off? How did she practice for this if performing the technique kills you? You practice getting this right. Well, you can't, because as soon as you do it, you die. So I don't know. I'm at a loss. I don't know. Was Holdo just such an awesome pilot? Well, she's not as good as Poe Dameron, that's for sure, because he's the best pilot. So I don't know. Oh, okay, so a little bit more of this leaks. This is a little bit spoilery. Does something bad happen to C-3PO in the movie like the leaks suggest? And I do want to answer this more because I want to rant about it more than to ease your curiosity. So this is sort of to, answer questions if you're curious about the movie. But you know what? I'm going to move this question to last. So I am going to come back to it later, only because if you feel like it's spoilery, you could always just turn it off. It's a bit too spoilery. So, okay. The rebels in the last movie... Okay, so next question. The rebels in the last movie were reduced to 30 people. Do they do a convincing job explaining how the rebels rebuild their forces? So first off, there's how the rebels the Resistance. The Resistance is at the beginning of this movie. And at the beginning of this movie, there are probably a few hundred people, maybe 1,000 people large, or maybe even a little larger than that. They don't do an explanation of how they get that big, but it's not humongously big, so they don't explain how they get to that size, but okay, they're still not big enough to fight the First Order, so it's not like they pull a Navy out of their hat, right? So it's not like they just had a magician's hat and pull a Navy out. So then they have to defeat the First Order, right? So how do they do it at the end of this movie? Well, yes, they actually do grow in size. So is there an explanation for that? Yes, and it's laughable. So basically, what they do halfway through this movie is, yes, they do pull a Navy out of a magician's hat. And if you're confused, okay, so let me explain. At the end of The Last Jedi, remember that part where Princess Leia sends out a distress signal and no one answers? And she says, we have allies out there. They will come. She sends the signal to her allies, they don't come. Yeah. So no one came. So what did they do in this movie? Okay, so what they do is they send a distress signal out to their allies and half the galaxy shows up. And if you're wondering what the heck, yeah, so in this way the movie kind of undoes The Last Jedi. So now, before you completely dismiss this, let me give my explanation. So in the last movie, Luke Skywalker fled from the First Order in fear. Another spoiler: his Force Ghost shows up in this movie to actually explain. Yes, I ran in fear, and so when the galaxy sees their hero. And I guess Luke Skywalker is a hero to the galaxy, I think. That's the sense I get from the last movie. When Luke Skywalker fled from the First Order, the rest of the galaxy feared them, because if they can make Luke Skywalker run in fear, they are to be feared. And by running from the First Order, Luke Skywalker legitimized the fear that the First Order wanted to impose on the galaxy. At the end of the last film, a lot of the critics say there was not even a real lightsaber fight between Kylo and Luke. However, that wasn't the point. The point of Luke Skywalker showing up is just because, at the end, everyone thinks Luke Skywalker stared down the First Order fearlessly. And so Luke Skywalker's departing gift from the galaxy was hope. And hope that you can stare the thing you fear. You can go up to the thing you fear and stare it down fearlessly. And so I think he inspired people in this film to show up. Because if Luke Skywalker stood his ground, then those kids at the end of the last movie were talking about and were inspired. And if word got to those little kids that Luke was there, then who else did that word get to? And only Kylo knows that it was a Force projection. I don't think he told anyone. So yeah, when people hear, Luke Skywalker faced down the First Order fearlessly, that gave the galaxy hope. So when they sent the distress signal out this time, everyone came. And you know what I just gave you? I just gave you a far better explanation of what happened than the Rise of Skywalker gives you. So here's the explanation here's the explanation that a Rise of Skywalker gives you as to why people answered the distress signal this time as opposed to answering it last time. So the reason why people answered the distress signal this time is because Lando sent the distress signal from the Millennium Falcon. Even though Princess Leia sent the last signal in the last movie, no one came. Oh, but this time it came from the Millennium Falcon. Okay, then everyone shows up. What? No, and I mean everyone. You should see the fleet that comes to fight the First Order. They are huge. There is a ton of ships. And even one of the guys in the First Order has a line saying, how do the rebels get so many ships? Where do they get an army? Who are these people? Where did this army come from? What army is this? What navy is What navy is this? And another Imperial says, this isn't a navy. These are just people. So basically, like a dude and his think of if you took your sedan, your family car, and you just grabbed a gun and you just drove out to a World War II battlefield saying, yeah, I'm going to fight them Nazis. Yeah, that's what happens in this movie. You take your family car, you grab a gun, you go drive out to a World War II battlefield to fight the Nazis. That's what happens in this movie. So, yeah. Okay. So, before I get to that, so I'm almost done. I'm almost at that point about C-3PO that I was a bit too spoilery. I want to save to the end. The last question you might have for this movie is one that you would have if you saw my last video. If you saw my last video, you're probably wondering how many plot devices are in this movie. or I should say MacGuffins are in this movie, because I mentioned MacGuffin. Like, at the end of my last video, I was using the word MacGuffin left and right. So, I will tell you how many MacGuffins are in this movie. Here's my count. Other people might have other count. So, and I'm using the word MacGuffin to also describe plot devices. So I'll try to differentiate between which MacGuffins are actual plot device. So a MacGuffin is just something that, it's a quest object. It's something that characters want, whether it be the bad guys who want it or the good guys who want it. People are just after. Something everyone in the movie's after. And it could be a person everyone's after. It could be an object, or it could be a vehicle, or it could be information. So, and some of this stuff is actually... So, it's actually stuff that they should be a MacGuffin. So it should, like, oh, we need this. We need to go after this. But two of these MacGuffins are actually plot devices in that no one's going after them. By the time people realize they want them, they already have them in their hand. So I'll try to differentiate. So anyways, here's the list. So the first MacGuffin is a guy who worked for the First Order, who disappeared in the desert. Then... the second one is the ship that belonged to the guy in the First Order when they realized he hasn't been seen and they can't find him, so they have to go after his ship. Then the next MacGuffin, which is a plot device, is a droid belonging to the dude who worked for the First Order. It's the green and white droid I mentioned in my last video. By the time they realize they need with the information he has, they already have him in the possession. He's already with them, so, okay. Then the next MacGuffin is the Sith Dagger. Then something to translate the Sith Dagger, more of a plot device because C-3PO can translate the Sith Dagger, but he can't relay that translation. So, I'll even go into that in my next question. Emperor Palpatine himself is a MacGuffin. People are after him. Rey herself is a MacGuffin since Emperor Palpatine's after her. There's two Force Triangle Pyramid thingies. They're not quite Sith holocrons, but they look like Sith holocrons. I cannot tell if Leia and Anakin's lightsabers are MacGuffins in this movie. I don't know. Luke's X-Wing is a MacGuffin, except it's a plot device because Luke's Force Ghost just hands it to Rey, so it's like Rey says, I need this, and Luke's Force Ghost says, yeah, don't bother searching half the galaxy for it, here it is. The coordinates you're looking for, I had them on my X-Wing, and I was about to, like, Luke was about to fly off the planet he was on, but decided to stay, but he left the coordinates to where he was going to go in the X-Wing, I think. But it's also unclear if, like, there was an object on that X-Wing, because Rey was looking for an object, so I'm not sure if Luke was about to fly off the planet that he was on in his X-Wing, and then decided not to and left the coordinates in his X-Wing, or if there was an object on the X-Wing, the object that Rey was looking for was on the X-Wing, I don't know. And then the last two things are two antennas that I mentioned in my last video. Yeah, okay. So that's a lot of MacGuffins. And I might have missed a few MacGuffins, so forgive me if I missed a few MacGuffins in this movie, Star Wars: The Rise of the MacGuffins. Anyways, so, and you know what? Let me make a little complaint. Sometimes it's not clear how the characters know that the information they're looking for is on this particular device, or they need this particular device to go to this particular place. It's like, we need to go here, and another character's like exposition, then we need this MacGuffin. Well, how do you know that MacGuffin gets you what you want? And it's not even clear, like, how the MacGuffins are the key. They're like how is this MacGuffin the key to what you're looking for? I don't know. And how they know, like, they're following a trail of MacGuffin, so it's just like someone needs to say, okay, here's the next MacGuffin you're looking for. I don't know. Anyways, so does something bad happen to C-3PO in this movie like the leak suggests? It's kind of bad. Like, what happens to him is kind of bad, but not that bad. But it's needless. So, okay, so he needs to translate a Sith Dagger. But the thing is, he knows what it says. He looks at it and he knows what the words are. So he has it translated in his head. But he cannot say that translation out loud. There's like some protocol that prevents him from doing so. And forgive me if I need to drink a little water here. So, yeah, it's just so weird. Okay, so he can't reproduce the words. So he has an automatic... So what this movie suggests is that if a droid translates Sith, they fall to the dark side. because that's kind of what happens to 3PO when he translates the Sith language, is that he becomes like evil. And the only way to prevent a droid from completely falling to the dark side is to have an automatic system kick in to wipe their memories. Which I think is stupid. So, okay, think of this. Think of a droid going up to you saying, good morning. And then imagine a droid translating a Sith dagger that has good morning on it. And then the droid translates the Sith writing and says, good morning. The exact same words, but he's speaking it out loud because he's translating a Sith dagger. Then he becomes like all evil and possessed. As soon as they say good morning. So I don't know why speaking normal, like the English language, well, galactic or whatever the language is, speaking that is bad just because you translated the Sith dagger. You're not speaking the Sith language, so it's unclear why this is the case. In fact, this is an unnecessary part of the movie. So basically, they could have just had C-3PO translate the dagger right away. They don't. The only purpose this serves to not have C-3PO translate the Sith language right away is that he can't translate it, so they lose the Sith dagger, and Rey has to go separate from the rest of the group and go on like a little mini journey to get the Sith dagger. And then afterwards, C-3PO, I think, just translates it from his memory anyway, so they don't even really need to go through to the Sith dagger. It just boggles my mind why they, and you know the whole thing about her going to get the Sith dagger, that's just part, like, if you can cut that out of the movie. Go ahead, cut that part out of the movie. Just have C-3PO translate the dagger right away. It doesn't really serve any purpose except to split Rey from the rest of the group, but you could just have something else cause Rey to split from the rest of the group. I don't know. I don't know. This is, it's just... Okay, imagine. Okay, so just imagine. You know what? Here's a complaint I have with this whole movie. It is crammed with, like, random elements that simply drive the characters to the next destination. But the elements that drive the characters to the next destination aren't necessarily getting them closer to the end destination. So it's not like the movie's being driven forward, it's just being driven in a direction. So imagine if you were trying to get somewhere that's 5 minutes away, and you have to, like, stop at a red light or something, and you just don't like being stopped. So you always want to go in a direction. So you take these weird detours simply to avoid stoplights that you don't want to be stopped at. So it takes you a half hour to get somewhere just because you always want to be in motion, rather than just taking the straight path and just waiting at a stoplight for just a tiny bit. That's what this movie feels like to me. Anyways, so how do I feel about the film as a whole? So, do I like the film? Do I recommend you seeing it? No, I do not recommend you seeing it. So, I am a longtime Star Wars fan. This movie never happened. Now, I'm a person who loved The Last Jedi and loved The Force Awakens. I love those two movies. And after seeing this movie, those movies never happened. The whole sequel trilogy never happened. Anything Disney Star Wars never happened, except I heard good things about The Mandalorian, so that might have happened. So, or should I say the Baby Yoda show with Mandalorian as like a side supporting character? Since that's what the show is to half the people. Anyways, and if you don't believe that I'm a Star Wars fan, I'm going to prove to you what a Star Wars nerd I am. So, in the Mandalorian show, Baby Yoda does something. He uses the Force, and some of the people call BS on that. Some of the people are like, oh, fans of the show Mandalorian like how Baby Yoda uses the Force, but people get mad at Rey for being powerful in the Force and calling her Mary Sue. But Baby Yoda's a baby, so he shouldn't be using the Force, and that's a double standard. Baby Yoda shouldn't be using the Force. He's a Mary Sue villain, but no one's calling him a Mary Sue. People like him, all that stuff. So I'm going to say that there is an in-lore explanation for why Baby Yoda can use the Force. An obscure explanation no one's probably thought of. So, that crib that Baby Yoda is in? It kind of resembles something from a Tales of the Jedi comic. So if you know about the Great Hyperspace War, it's a war in which a Sith Lord tries to conquer the galaxy with a small force. And so this small force is like the first wave of soldiers fighting people on various planets. And the Sith creates illusions of ships in the sky just to show that there's going to be endless reinforcements. So it's just surrender to this first wave of guys because there's going to be endless reinforcements. And those ships are illusions, but he wants to make people think that they're going to be fighting endless forces, so it's futile to resist. He does this he does this throughout the whole galaxy, and the only reason he's able to pull that off is because he's getting his powers enhanced by an artifact. An artifact that's simply, well, it looks like a larger version of Baby Yoda's crib. So, Baby Yoda's crib is just a smaller version of that. It probably enhances his force powers. Probably to the point that Baby Yoda might be able to use his powers without realizing it. So if Baby Yoda wants like a glass of milk, Baby Yoda just thinks about wanting the glass of milk and it comes to him telekinetically. And so maybe Baby Yoda just realizes he can make things move with his mind because he can just do it like at ease because his powers are so amplified by the small crib. Anyway, and it has been a while since I've seen that comic, so I'm going off memory. I think that artifact the guy used to enhance his powers looks exactly like a larger version of Baby Yoda's crib. I think I am going off memory here, but anyways, that's just how much of a Star Wars nerd I am. Anyways, I am Darth Vangoff. I hope you found this useful. And keep in mind, this probably won't stay up a whole long time. I might take this down December 31st. So, hopefully, if you do see the movie, hopefully you enjoy. But do be prepared in the first sentence of the opening crawl to be hit with feeling like you got you rammed into a brick wall, only because he had. Yeah, it is a bit. The movie's a bit much. So, but if you do see it, I do hope you enjoy it. Just I don't expect you to. Anyways, I'm Darth Vangoff. I will see you later. Take care.